Let's start on page 5 tonight, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thanks for everyone being here because you made a minyan tonight, which is really wonderful to me. It's not always the case. So page 5, let's sing a little at bottom of the page. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon. Mit Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barhuni leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you'll notice in Shalom Aleichem that most of the verses all sound the same, but they have a slight difference at the beginning. So the first one is Shalom Aleichem, sort of shalom to you, or hello, welcome, or good to meet you. And the second one says, come in peace, boachem l'shalom. The third one says, bless me in peace. And the fourth one says, go in peace. And I know Mary and Art may know what I'm going to say, but I want to say it to this incredible family that is having a joint bar mitzvah tomorrow, b'nei mitzvah, which is, there's a great Hasidic interpretation of this, which is awesome. I think about it. Once I learned it, I couldn't get it out of my mind. That the four pieces that rotate are that it's your parents falling in love. So it's you guys. Like Shalom Aleichem is where we invite the divine presence because this beautiful gift that we're channeling on Shabbat of love takes place. So Shalom Aleichem is like two people on a date, they're meeting each other or they're dating and they're inviting the divine presence through their connection. And then they decide to get married. And then Boachem LaShalom is through their love, they wish for another piece of God through souls, through the well of souls, to be invited to join them, to make a family. So through their love, they do Boachem l'shalom, come in peace, come in peace. And then God sends them a soul to be born into their family, to make a family. And Barchuni l'shalom starts the weekend of the B'nai Mitzvah, because bless me in peace means I've raised you, I've tried to be a blessing to you. Blessings are like giving you the things you want, making you happy, teaching you why the world, giving you all those blessings. But when children become adults, then we say, now it's your turn to be a blessing to me. Because now we're kind of equals on some level. And what do you think go in peace means? It's not morbid, by the way. It's go out to the world. So whenever you guys go to college or grad school or whatever it is, when it's time for you to actually pull up in my days, it was a 30-year-old Pinto or Datsun, but these days it's probably the rabbi's 20-year-old Nissan Leaf that sold for $1,500. Pack them up to actually move out your stuff. That'll be Tzedchem l'shalom. So beautiful to start Shabbat with a prayer and be exactly on the third verse for this family. On page 10, let's begin some of the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat with the Yedid Nefesh, which is a nature poem about the fact that we connect to God through nature and the soul within us is a part of nature. So which means that we're always connected to God like the wild animals are. Yedid Nefesh Av harachaman mishoch avdach el ritzonach Yarutz avdach kemo aya Yishtachaveh mul hadarav, ki yerav lo yedidutach, mihino betzuf v'chol ta'am. Last verse. Higalena ufros kavim alayet sukat shel hamach. Ta'ir eretz mikvodach, nagila v'nismecha bach, maher ahu kiva hamoed v'chaneni ki me'olam. Feel free. Yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da da da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da, yada da 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 da. On page 11, we transition from being like a beautiful animal in the wilderness, sort of automatically connected to God, to arriving either at the entry to Shabbat or the entry to Jerusalem. And so we sing the beginning of the Psalm of a Pilgrim's Arrival. And when we do that, we put down our baggage. So as pilgrims would arrive at Jerusalem to say this, today we say it as arriving at the beginning of Shabbat. Whatever baggage you have from the week, put down and don't carry it into the holy place. We continue silently till the middle of 12. And as we prepare to sing the end of the psalm, where you have the little red triangle, God interrupts the poet of the psalm to say, it's all well and good to say you're thankful and you've put down your baggage. But if you complain during Shabbat, then you chase away the spirit of Shabbat, chase away the spirit of God. For the next 26 hours, 25 hours, everything that's in the world is beautiful. I mean, not everything, but let's try to experience the world as a gift in and of itself, even with Israel. Thank God we have an Israel to be worried about. Thank God we have Israelis to care for. And thank God we have the blessings of love and a privilege. And so what that means for Anneke and Ian is that whatever you do, it's going to be perfect. So yes, your tutor may say, you made a mistake here, you made a mistake here, but all that ends is we sing this, because whatever you do tomorrow is just right. And you, for the rest of us who are used to going to services, we know that when a child or an adult makes a mistake on Shabbat, somehow there's some divine silver lining in it. Like you just made someone else feel better because they don't know it, or yeah, go ahead. It's usually an adult. There's just something about it. So like whatever happens tomorrow, and please don't worry about making mistakes. It's meant to be. Like how lucky are we that we get to do this? We have the freedom to be Jews. We have the freedom to celebrate you. To focus on a mistake would be to go against these words that we're singing now on page 12. Arba'im shana akut bedor V'omar am to'e levavhem v'hem lo yadu derachan sher nishpati v'yapihi im yavon el menuchatim. 1600s, the rabbis added the Psalms here to give us strength and to get our spirit tuned to Shabbat. But instead of singing all of them, you're welcome to read the sides of the pages, but we're going to go through them thematically. So what they are doing before we get to Lachadodi, is we've just done the exercises that I've said. And now it says, listen to nature. There's a new song playing. Everybody's heartbeat is part of the song. Every insect making a sound is part of the song. Every kitty cat meowing to be let into the Cain household at home because the rabbi's not there, wanting dinner, their meow is part of the song. Our breath is part of the song. So we are surrounded in nature and creation with song. God hears it as prayer. If only we could hear it that way and join in. And it's a song that has harmony and happiness in it. As we go through the Psalms, it says on page 15, unfortunately, clouds and thick darkness surround the divine, and we don't see it directly. Righteousness and justice are God's throne, but we don't always see justice, and we don't always experience righteousness, especially in weeks like this. And so our job is to try to take that song and know that justice and righteousness and God's presence is real and connect to it. And that's why it says on page 16, one way to get there is to remember that God hates evil. And God, those who love Adonai hate it. And God is trying to protect and support those connected to the goodness, to the harmony, to the justice. And they connect through a special light. But the light is an invisible light. It's a light that emanates from God and is the meaning behind God's holy name. So on page 17, it says, maybe you need to find a new song for your prayer or tonight or in your behavior. The vibrations you send out must make a new song to connect you to that presence so that God's righteousness and human righteousness is revealed. So figure out what your instrument is on page 18 and get it out, what gift God gave you that you can play to connect everybody and yourself to that. And if that doesn't take you far enough, you get to page 19, which says that God's strength lies in the love of justice. And those before you on page 20, sometimes you have to look to your ancestors who had a terrible situation and yet found their way to God and found their way through covenant to create a world that was better than the one they found. So if you can't find it within yourself, find it within them and let them lead you to it. And it gets to page 21 that says sometimes the sound of God is even in storms and even in upheaval, but the voice of God is still there. And that takes us to Lachadodi on page 23. Lechadodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela shamur v'zachor Bedi borecha hishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem o tiferet v'heliti la lechadodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh Kedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machshava hatechila lechadodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela mikdash melech Imelucha kumitzei mitocha hafecha harav lach shevet behemek abacha vehu yachamol alayichem la lechadodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabel. Page 25. Behayu limshisa Shosa yiferaku kol mevalahi yasisa lahi Elohahi kimsos chatan al kahala lechadodi likra kahala pene Shabbat nekabela yamin usmo Tifroti v'et Adonai Taritzi al yarish ben barzi b'nismecha v'nagila lechadodi. Please rise. Let's welcome the spirit of Shabbat from outside. Kabbalat. Boi v'shalom, atere ba'ala gam b'simcha, u'v'tzohala toch emuneh, aham segula boi kala. Bohi kala lechadodi likrakala pene Shabbat nekabela. We may be seated. Shabbat shalom. I got to tell you, these verses have extra poignancy tonight. I mean, just look at the top of page 25. When we think that this poem was written by the community that were expelled by Spain, and many of them went to Israel. This was written in the land of Israel in Tzfat, and many of them lost their families to persecution, slaughter, and torture, and as they made their way through the Spanish expulsion from Spain to Israel. And then they wrote, your despoilers shall be despoiled, and your tormentors shall be removed far away, so that you can celebrate together, bride and groom, meaning us and God, together happy in our land. And then they say you will spread out to the left and to the right. And as I pointed out before, spreading out to the left and right, they meant God to be spreading out from Jerusalem to encompass the countries on the left and the countries on the right. In days when Gaza's on the left and the West Bank's on the right, it's all the more poignant, but they meant all the way to Spain and all the way to Russia and the unification of Sfard and Ashkenaz. And then they also meant left to right being a peaceful unification of Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. So it's a spreading out from our Shabbat to Friday, when their Muslim friends in Israel were having mosque call and calling people to prayer on Friday afternoon, and Sunday, when the Christians in Israel, and they knew well, they've been there for thousands of years, were celebrating Shabbat on Sunday. So they go from the reality of utter destruction to a wish for Jews peaceful in their land, and to a wish for peace to be spread out, to unite Muslims, Christians, and Jews together under God's protection and peace. Takes us to the Shabbat Psalm on page 27. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Tov lehodot laDonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, v'emunatcha balelot. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. Mizmor shir, shir liyom haShabbat. We continue the Shabbat Psalm silently. Odinuvon de seva, de shenim v'rananim yiyu, le'agig yashar Adonai, tzuri v'lo avla tabo. Edotecha nemnu ma'od, levecha nava kodesh Adonai, le'orech yamin. This is Mourner's Kaddish on page 30. I'm going to read the names of the yard sites for this week from Beth Israel. We remember Herbert Amster, Ivan Ball, Mary Benjamin, Sidney Bernard, Eli Botkin, Delma Brensicki, Lillian Brown, Tate Show, Barnett Dalitz, Bernie Freed, Abraham Friedman, Henny Garfield, Barney Golden, Cheryl Tobes Grant, Elizabeth Green, Rhoda Gross Rappaport, Luma Haydenkrug, Gidon Hoffer, Jack Horowitz, Chaya Ledezinski, Ada Margolis, Barbara McAnally, Abraham Pear, George Penchasoff, Avner Pinsker, Wendy Dove Reagan, Marvin Sandfield, Jacob Schwartz, Dorothy Serwin, and Richard Serwin, Irving Seiden, Semi Sobelman, Emil Stein, Richard Swartz, Jenny Sweetwine, Eva Katz-White, and Phyllis Kochin-Warchin. As we continue to remember in Sekada Shulamit Weitzman, Robert Haftel, Ellen Monto, Richard Burke, Eva Kalani, Susan Chapnick, Phyllis Horwitz, Bill Liberson, Tamar Weaver, Rita Stoll, Harvey Aaron Scher, Bennett Stark, Dottie Berman, Martha Olenek, Bonnie Weinstein, Sheldon Berry, Naomi Metter, Shoshana Buckwalter, Sybil Mintz, Jeffrey Aronson, Mimi Karish, Andrea Lynn Meislish, Evelyn Bodkin, Sylvia Gordon, Carl Cohen, Isidore Fisher, Christine Reed, Harriet Celine, Frederick Reingold, Kevin Schiff, and starting tomorrow morning, Seymour Konigsberg. For those who are saying the Mourner's Kaddish tonight, please, you're invited to rise and recite with me on page 30. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach gerute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayedecho beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei al-maya, Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitromam v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru amen. And we all rise to begin Mariv together on page 39. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai borach le'olam va'ed. We may be seated and we continue silently. Baruch Adonai hamevorach. El chai v'kayam tamidim lo chalenu le'olam va'ed baruch atah Adonai hamari v'aravim. Page 40, we prepare for the Shema. Ahava, let's sing it. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachveinu v'kumeinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki em chayenu v'orech yamenu v'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla v'avatcha tasim olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 41. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzabecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivdecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'einecha uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha uvihishareh. We continued 42 and 43 silently. God places us among the living and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. 44. Umalchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael achan yashra b'simcha rabba v'yamru laham mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Norati loto sefela Machutecha ra'u vanecha b'keyam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu yamru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar kifadaha Adonai Yaakov v'kol chazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai ga'ah Yisrael. Let's read 45 together in English. Adonai, allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us alive, O sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. You, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 46. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam ki sheishet yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz uvayom hashvi'i shava vayinacham. So we're about to head into the Kaddish and then the silent Amidah. You can either use the liturgy or the readings during the silent Amidah, or allow me to do the liturgy silently, and you can have your own improvised prayers. And I'll share one thought before we go through, and it's just a thought for this family on this weekend. And I love Bar Mitzvah thoughts. So I'll share one of my favorite poems. And some of you have heard this before, because since it's a favorite poem, it makes a repeat appearance now and then. So I'm always happy to share it in Hebrew if you want it, but tonight, for time's sake, I'll share it just in English. It's Yehuda Amichai's Like a Ship's Captain. Like a ship's captain who, after the dinner party, shows his guests the engine room in the bowels of the ship, down below, because the beautiful women have requested a private tour. And he takes them down the iron steps, and he opens the doors with a clang and closes them behind. And they all stand marveling at all the shining and the spinning and the going up and down. It is in this way that I show my guests my children's bedroom. I open a door and I close it quietly, and we hear two sorts of breathing in different rhythms in the small room, which feels infinite, and the faint bluish light shines above the door. And a prayer from the Siddur V'taher Libenu. It's not our Siddur, but it's just a prayer of gratitude. Thank you, God of eternity, for the great wonder of your creation, for the earth and the stars and the sun and the moon and the beauty of your universe, with which in your great kindness you have blessed us. Thank you for granting us life in all its richness, for all its brilliant moments of joy, which allow us to soar as the birds, and even for its anguish and pain, which somehow seem to precipitate growth and change. For all these things, God, we are grateful. But thank you especially, God, in your abundant love for having chosen to make us human beings, blessed among the fruits of your creation, with a mind to reason and a will to seek truth and justice, with a soul which can feel pain and ecstasy and compassion, and has the freedom to choose life and goodness, over cruelty and destruction. And with a heart that can love and care and reach out to touch the hearts of our brothers and sisters, as together we walk through the years of our lives. Please rise for the Amidah. Yitkada v'yikada shemei rabba v'yamad yivrak yirtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayev uv'nayim tilchol beit Yisrael v'yamad Yivarach v'shabach v'yimar v'shama v'naseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalach shmei v'rishar le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata v'shrecha v'nhen v'nhen 47 and 52 in the language of your choice, poems, readings, or just your personal meditations. Different rhythms to how to feel. From the keyboard, different thank you, God of eternity, for the great wonder of your creation. The earth, the stars, the sun, the space, and the beauty of the wisdom of this time of your thank you for granting us that knowledge for all of the brilliant memories of joy, to allow us to explore the birth. And even for the conditions that somehow seems specifically growth. All these things God did. The thank you accepting God as the kingdom of having chosen to be rest in the truth of your faith. To the mind that you can may will to speak truth and justice. With a soul and your spirit. As the freedom to choose life and good with a focus and love for we try to sacrifice the body. Together we walk. We drive to the undying. This guy got we use my possible. We drive to the family. Those still praying, please continue as we start singing the rest of us a little bit on page 53. Vayechulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzevam vayechal Elohim v'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa Vayishpod bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa Vayevarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i Vayekadesh oto Kivo shavat mikol melachto Kivo shavat mikol melachto Asher bara Elohim, Asher bara Elohim la'asol. And now we may be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Konei Shamayim ve'Aretz, Magen Avot Bidvaro, Mechaye Metim B'Mamaro, Ha'el Hakadosh She'en Kamohu, Hameniach Le'amo, Yom Shabbat Kodsho, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Kivam Ratza Lehaniach Lahem, Lefanav Na'avod B'irav Pachad, V'nodeh Lishmo B'chol Yom Tamid, Me'on HaBrachos. El HaHodaot Adon HaShalom Mekadesh HaShabbat Umvarech Shvi Umeniach Bikdusha Amdu Shnei Honeg Zecher L'Maaseh V'Reishim. On page 54, let's read the final blessing of the Amidah in English. And one of the reasons I'd like to do in English tonight is that it refers to Shabbat and Torah as inheritances. And I mean, if you're a poet or you're interested in language, that's a very specific way to think of it. And I don't know if we think of Shabbat and Torah as inheritances that we pass on, especially Shabbat. So in a time of transition, L'dor Vador, it's something to keep in mind the beauty of what we've received and how to think of it. Our God and God of our ancestors, embrace our rest. Make us holy through your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our portion. Fill our lives with your goodness, and gladden us with your deliverance. Purify our hearts to serve you truly. Adonai, our God, lovingly and willingly, grant that we inherit your holy Shabbat, that the people Israel who make your name holy may find rest on this day. Baruch atah Adonai, who makes Shabbat holy. Yikadav yikadash shemei rabba, v'yamad yivrakirte, v'yamlich malchute b'chayechonu, v'yamechonu v'chayteko beit Yisrael, b'galav izman kari v'imeru, amen, yehi shmei rabba mevarach, le'olam olam me'amaya. Yiparach v'ishtabach v'yipar v'yitramam v'yinaseh, v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shmei kudesha, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tishpata v'nechemata, damiram v'yama v'imeru, Titkabal Tzloton Vaton Decho Yisrael, Kardama Vahondi Vishmaya V'imeru, Yeshama Bat Green Shemaya V'chayim Alein V'Kol Yisrael V'imeru, Oseh Shalom Bimramav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Alein V'Kol Yisrael V'imeru. Amen. Please rise for Aleinu on 56. Aleinu l'shaveh l'adon ha'kol, l'ateit kiduhan l'yostereshi. Shalom asanu kigoyei haratzot velos k'mishpachot ha'adama Shalom samchalkeinu kahem v'goralinu kechol hamonam v'yanachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Hashemayim V'Sem. Hakatuv Torah Adonai Yimloch Le'olam V'Hed V'Ne'emar V'Haya Adonai L'Melech Al Kol Ha'aretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shema Echad. Page 58 for everyone who is reciting the Mourner's Kaddish on this day. Yikadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitala v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha. Brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran v'ama v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Uyaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. And for our closing song tonight, let's just sing the final verse. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Shabbat shalom. I'm going to ask you to linger for 1 second. I'm going to